Welcome to Trulyfit, the online fitness marketplace connecting pros and clients through unique fitness business software.
Sarah, thanks for joining the Trulyfit Podcast. Why don't you give the listeners a background on your fitness life, what you do in fitness now, and who you are?
Awesome. Well, welcome. Thank you for having me, first of all. But my name is Sarah Pelc Graca, and I am a certified personal trainer, certified indoor cycling instructor, and nutrition coach. So I do a couple different things, I guess, for life right now. Obviously, I own a nutrition coaching business, which is what I do most of the time, full time. But I also teach indoor cycling at Cycle Bar. And I have been teaching indoor cycling now, almost 10 years. And I absolutely love it. And for me personally, I find the balance of doing one-on-one coaching with my nutrition business mixed with like the group vibe of indoor cycling just really puts me in a happy place and a really happy balance of getting to help people in different ways.
Well, because you're a personal trainer and you work in nutrition and you do cycling, there's a host of things that we can talk about here. And I'm sure we would talk forever, but we're obviously going to center this around just spin classes and cycling. And I think it's going to be great for both people who want to know more about spinning and cycling, and then also instructors who either do it or they're thinking about doing it and want to know like the perks of being a spin instructor and what it all entails. So let's just maybe first start from the top. What is it like to teach a spin class? Give me like a day by day. You walk in the class. How does your class start? Are you setting the music? What are your first steps?
Great question. And the first step actually starts way before the class in planning out the playlist and the music. So again, teaching at Cycle Bar, we are very much a rhythm ride, meaning that we ride the beat of the music. So the beat of the music is what dictates what we're doing. And so for me, that is one of the best parts about teaching indoor cycling is being the DJ and putting together the newest, hottest, latest hits, and then throwing it back to a 1970s song, and then really putting that variety from pop music to country to rap to trying to hit all the different genres to help engage the riders so that they never really know, well, what's going to be next on her playlist. This is so fun. Like, oh, I forgot about this song. So well before the class, at least 24 hours before, I have that playlist set so that I know exactly what we're doing when. But of course, I don't let the riders know that till we're in the moment. So fast forward to time of the class, arrive at the studio, put on cycling shoes so that I'm safely clipped into the bike, get my bike set up safely, which is also super important. Engage with the riders. That's again, another reason why I love teaching this, getting to know my riders, which has been a little different now with COVID-19 than it looked about a year ago, looked a little different, but really trying to engage with riders. And then we get on the bike, we get clipped in, and we do the thing.
Awesome. I haven't taken that many different spin classes. I want to say in my life, maybe 10 or 12. And I'd say half of those were at like conferences where, you're just trying out a little bit of everything. But at the conferences, it's so great because you have the top spin instructors and you have like, Schwinn's master trainer coming out to do these different things. And you get to see their energy and how they put how they shape a class. Like you said, first getting the music correct, then getting like the verbiage correct and shaping all that stuff. And I know from my small experience, the instructor really matters in a good class. Can you speak to like why it's important to be do everything you can to be a top level instructor and do more than you would in, let's say, another class?
Absolutely. So I think when it comes to teaching cycling, there's a couple different components as an instructor that you have to embody. And the first is clear communication, and you have to be sure you tell your riders what they're going to do with enough time to do it. And what I mean by that is you can't just tell people sprint, go, or, add resistance, go, or out of the saddle, go. Like you have to give them a little bit of warning, but at the same time, you also have to have that element of motivator and cheerleader. And you have to really be able to share why the riders do this, not just what they're doing, but why it's important from a health standpoint, but also for so many people, um, you know, in a spin class, that is their 30 or 45-minute or 1 hour break where it's fully focused on them. And it's not work or the kids or anything else. So I think it's important to obviously have instructor being able to share, the physical drill components, but also being able to motivate your riders so that they push themselves too.
Yeah, and I think as any group instructor, and this also plays into spin instructors, it's important to start each class, if not teach the whole class, as if nobody has ever done it before. And I think the people who don't do that miss out, and they don't ingrain that into their day to day, and they forget to do that, and then they really do not create a good experience for people. Because I can tell you that my wife is somebody who loves spin classes, and she had brought her friends to a spin class that she thought was going to be great. And lo and behold, the spin instructor basically didn't use any of the jargon or parlance and explain to them, this is what this means, right? What does second position mean? What does this, if you don't explain to everybody as if they've never been into a class before, there's going to potentially be one person in there who hasn't been in that class before, and they're not going to enjoy it. And that's just going to send bad vibes everywhere. So make sure you start each class as if this is everybody's first class.
Absolutely, especially if the bike that you're riding on has an odometer with multiple numbers on it. Because I know, for example, at Cycle Bar, we will talk about RPMs and a gear number. Probably a good, I don't even know, 7 to 8 different pieces of information you can look at. And you're right, if you aren't aware that you have a new rider in your class and you start talking about RPMs and resistance and power, and you've not explained that poor person is going to be overwhelmed and lost.
Overwhelmed is a great word. And just think about yourself. First of all, anything in fitness nowadays, because it's everywhere, there's a lot of insecurities people have, right? So they're already kind of worried about walking into the fitness class and being judged and not being as good. So you have somebody, imagine, brand new, walking into a class. Maybe it's their first fitness class ever, and they're already worried and concerned. Now they have to look at all these different things, the odometer, and know how to clip in and what's first position and second position. You have to make sure that you're working to that person more than you're working to the person who knows everything about it, right? You should be good enough eventually, right, as an instructor, to cater to everybody, right? To have a class where you have people who have been there for 3 years and people who have been there for 3 minutes. But if you're not there yet, if you're not on that level where you can work with everybody, my advice, not as a spin instructor, because I'm not, but as a group fitness instructor, is always play towards the person who's never been there.
I agree. And something that I love to share with my riders, like you said, whether they are veterans and have been to 1,000 spin classes or whether this is their first, is to remind them that I am the guide, but this is your ride and you have ownership over your bike. If you need to do something different than I'm saying today, I'm just giving suggestions. Like, if you, especially new riders, if they need to take a seat and drop some gear to catch their breath, or, if you were sitting at home on the couch, and that's what counts, is that, you keep going, whatever that means to you today. And I think as instructors, that's really something we can share with our riders, because even as someone that does this all the time, and I have been for 8 years, I still have the days that get on the bike and it just feels so hard. And maybe my best on the hard days is very different than my best on the strong days. But I think really reminding riders at all points in their journey, whether they're newbies or veterans, that, this might feel a little different today, and just honor whatever your body needs today.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, so we talked about the instructors and a little bit about what people can expect who are going to classes. Let's talk about the different entities that could be involved in a spin class. And what I mean by that is, I've been to some spin classes where there was like a projector up and they were showing videos. I've been to spin classes where the lights were off. I've been to spin classes where there was like rows of people and there was like 40 people, or there was 3. Tell me about all the different ways in which a spin class can be run to make them unique.
Totally. So it really comes down to, well, there's a lot of things that come into play. And obviously, Steve, as we're having this conversation right now, we're still in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so where I teach at Cycle Bar, we used to have 47 bikes. So it was pretty, it was 3 rows. It was a very long studio. And I'll be honest, the bikes were, you had your space, but they were relatively close together. But that also gave a vibe and an energy that words can't describe. You could feel the person next to you not sweating, but like their energy when they worked hard pushed you to work hard. Well, now, of course, we're maxed up, we're 6 feet apart. So we're down to, I think it's 16 or 17 bikes, but that's, it's changed it, but it hasn't changed it, if that makes sense. So I think for all spin classes, and again, with COVID, things are going to look different wherever you live based on regulations, but expect that there will be a good number of people probably in the class safely. But yes, at Cycle Bar, we have a race board, which is another fun element of the class. So all the bikes are numbered. You know what bike number you're on when you sign up. And we run different races throughout the class. And of course, the goal is you can have friendly competition among the other riders, but sometimes we can put the board where the whole class works as a team, or we can make it left side of the room or right side of the room, or even bike number, different competitions to really create that team camaraderie, which is such a fun part of the experience. Hit the nail on the head. We make the studio nice and dark. Lights are on us instructors, so you can see what you're doing. You can see your bike and be safe, but it gives that element of anonymity if any riders are concerned about, well, I don't know what others might think of me or how I look. The lights are dark on you, but it gives it a whole fun, I want to say nightclub vibe on the bike, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And I think because you're only on one piece of equipment, you have to have all those other variables to shake things up, right? So you need the good instructor, you need cool lighting, you need to make sure that the instructor is also not only giving directions, but like you said, really pumping their client up, right? Or the people up, or at least telling them, hey, you're here for you. Don't be concerned about what anyone else is doing, and making them feel calm and comfortable if this is their first time in the class. You need all those things, as opposed to I teach TRX classes. To me, it's so easy to teach a good TRX class because I can do endless things with this strap, right? I can do any exercise, I can work any muscle group, I can get super creative. But when you're on a bike, right, there's only so many things you can do. So you have to be able to use your personality and shape the class around the people who are there, not just around all the different things you can do.
100%, especially when you're on a bike that's not moving.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even like an outdoor bike. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So absolutely, you have to really, I'm going to use the word curate. You have to curate that class to your riders. You have to be able to read your riders. And what I mean when I say, are they keeping up with me? Do I need to kind of, as an instructor, maybe scale back if they kind of appear to be struggling, if they can't quite do the speed or the resistance that I'm pushing for? Or are they a group of a little bit more advanced riders that maybe have been riding with me weekly for a couple of years, and cool, I'm going to throw some fun races on the board because I know they're a group that can handle it.
I think those races are cool. I think having that dynamic, I know that I'll spice things up like that with my group fitness classes sometimes, where, it's healthy competition, but you'll have some sort of competition going on, and you'll split the class up, or at least you'll say like, all right, half the class is going to start on the floor doing these exercises, and half the class is going to start on the TRX doing these exercises, and you switch back and forth, and it creates that camaraderie. And you have to get creative. And I think, speaking, getting a little bit off topic here, but speaking to general group fitness, it's sometimes much harder to host an hour of a group fitness class than it is an hour personal training, because not only do you have so many different bodies in that room who all may need something different, they're still expecting almost personal trainer level attention right nowadays, because they're almost paying for it. You're rarely going to find the $7 class anymore, especially if you're in a big city, right? So these people are paying 15, 20, 25. I know classes that charge $35, right? So that's sometimes that's sometimes 60% of what you would pay for a personal training session. So because they expect more, you have to be on.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Totally.
So
And you have to be prepared for the unexpected, in the sense of you have to be prepared, almost like you said earlier about preparing for a new person. And again, this is getting off topic because cycle bar is very joint friendly, or, indoor cycling is very low impact friendly on the joints. But any other group fitness, you have to be prepared that someone's going to come with a shoulder injury. Somebody's going to come and need modifications for squats or burpees, or, you have to have that thinking cap on to be prepared for modifications.
yeah, totally. I have a passage in my book, Fitness Business 101, that talks about that. And it's important that, you have a plan going into something, whether it's a group fitness class, like a spin class, or whether it's a personal training session, but you're also ready for those curveballs. And how you limit those curveballs that are really going to throw you for a loop is to do exactly what you said. Have your music pre-planned, have a routine in mind, be ready for both veterans of the class and newbies, show up early, assess all the equipment, right? Check the bikes, because if you don't do all of that stuff, you're sitting down and before you know it, someone goes, oh, my pedals broke. What do I do? Right? Or, oh, this handlebar is not adjusting properly. I forgot my spin shoes. What do I do? So just get there early and be prepared for curveballs.
Yes. I can't recommend that enough.
So tell us a little bit about how the structure works. Are people buying packages for classes? Are they buying individual classes? Does it matter like a big difference on that? Do you ever have anybody who actually asks to train one-on-one because they're maybe nervous about joining the class?
Oh, that's such a great question. Really good questions. Okay, so in terms of packages, and again, I'm just speaking to Cycle Bar and
Sure.
I live in Michigan. So if any listeners live in Michigan, Cycle Bar is franchise. So this is for my particular Cycle Bar, but I'm pretty sure all of them operate pretty similarly. So we offer lots of different options, kind of really looking to cater to the rider. So just want to try one class, or, if you're not quite sure if cycling is your thing, that's okay. Come try us out. You can just purchase one class, nothing more than that. We offer class cards, meaning 5-class card, 10-class card, 20-class card. Obviously, the more classes you buy, the cheaper each class becomes. And then we also offer different types of recurring memberships. And I think this is something that we do that's different than other indoor fitness or group fitness, which is pretty cool. We actually offer a 4-pack month package and then a monthly unlimited. So, some people love to complement Cycle Bar with yoga. Okay, well, great. Maybe they want to come to us once a week. That 4-month package rate would be great for them. Or maybe they only come twice a week, so the 8 rides a month would be great for them. Or obviously we have our diehards that we know and love who do monthly unlimited that come much more often. So we try to work with all types of athletes, because I believe anyone that comes to us as an athlete, depending on how often they're looking for that intense cardio workout.
That's great. Yeah, it's the more packages you can offer, the more people you're going to get, right? Because everyone has different
Totally.
lifestyles and sort of time frames in which they can make a class or not make a class. I want to ask you now about spin certifications. I don't want to get into the weeds here, but as far as training where you are, can you just be a certified personal trainer and go there and get taught by other instructors? Do they expect you to have a spin certification? Do they do something where they let you shadow other instructors? How exactly does it work?
Great question. And a lot of it is through an audition process. So obviously, I can't speak from the corporate level because they're the ones who approve everyone.
Mhm.
And I am definitely, I would absolutely, this is my own personal, so let me say that. This is my own personal belief. I would probably recommend either an indoor cycling or group fitness certification or a personal training certification, just so you're aware of how the body works before teaching probably any type of group fitness. But at Cycle Bar, they do it based on an audition. So I'm not actually positive what the current rules are. I think now it's maybe they want to see you doing recording. They'll record you teaching, I believe, 2 or 3 different songs. They'll send that on to corporate. Corporate will give feedback. And then if you move through, they have an intense boot camp. They call it a boot camp training that all new instructors come through to be certified, to be sure you know how to safely not only teach a class, but also set people up on a bike. They really talk about, again, like we had mentioned, not only the tangibles of the class, how to teach gears and RPMs, but also the motivation. And that is one thing I really want to commend CycleBar on, is available to us as instructors. I mean, again, I've been doing this 8 years, and the amount of training videos and resources that I still get to continue to want to become a better instructor. And, hey, have you guys thought about doing this? Or let's talk about different songs that are fun for this. Or they're always pushing us to learn and grow and become better. And I think that's invaluable, not only for indoor cycling, but for any type of group fit.
Yeah, it's always great to make sure that from the top down, corporate, everybody is trying to advance and trying to help people learn and giving you sort of continuing education, whether that's free or not. But of course, it's always better if it's free to get better. I think, now I'm going to speak for people, but I do believe, this is just my guess here, my hypothesis is that as we start to break out of this pandemic, as far as the restrictions slowly, you're going to see people who really want to get back out there into the classes, right? Once they find it to be safe, because we miss that interaction. I can tell you as a trainer, I miss being on the floor with other trainers, interacting with my peers. And I know just from talking to people, that people miss being in the classroom. They miss the energy, they miss other people, and they're going to want to go back out there. So I think, talking to instructors or potential instructors who are listening to this is the time. Get ready. There's going to be an explosion of people. If you think you want to be an instructor, a spin instructor, especially, you better get on it now, because there's probably going to be an explosion of group fitness soon.
I absolutely agree with you 100%. I think, to any potential people out there that want to become it, like you said, it's going to, I envision, bounce back more than we all even realize. I think, as you said, you hit the nail on the head. People are craving human interaction. And after a year of having at-home workouts, people are craving workouts out of the house as well.
Yeah. And, everyone talks to the scalability of online is great. Yeah, it's great. But I think what gets lost sometimes is the not only the human interaction, which we talked about, but understanding who is really good at what they do, because there is no faking it when you're in that class. And it makes you such a good instructor when you're put on the spot. When you're working one-on-one with someone online, let's say, nobody has any idea if you're doing the right things except you and that other person. And if you can convince them you're doing the right thing, you feel great about yourself. And maybe that's what you need. But if you want to challenge yourself and you want to be good, you have to put yourself through those however cheesy this sounds, fearful situations. Sit on that bike in front of 47 people and get going. And that's how you learn. And that's how you become a better instructor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And he almost reminded me of something else, is to any possibly people wanting to become instructors. I kind of hit this earlier when I talked about the motivation, but something that I find too that's so rewarding is being human to our riders, or if you're teaching any other group fitness classes, being human to your participants in your class and reminding them, I don't want to say about your own struggles, but like talking to them and about, hey, like, this is hard for me too at times, or just really reminding people that we're no different than they are, I think is also a very important element of obviously a cycling class, but also any group fitness class.
Totally. Yeah, you're right. And that exactly speaks to what we touched on before. You have to assume these people are a little nervous walking into class, right? If you're nervous teaching it and you might have taught it for 8 years, right? Or I've taught TRX for 10 years, you have to imagine that a lot of these people are nervous. This is not what they're experts at. They have their peers watching them, and people have insecurities, and you have to bond with your clients or your customers, whatever you want to call them, the people who come into that class, and make them feel as comfortable as possible. Number one, if you want them to come back, it's important that they feel comfortable. But number two, it's just from a human interaction standpoint, make them feel welcome.
Totally. And I think it's going to be, as you were saying earlier, with this boom that we both think is going to happen with in-person group fitness, I think if anything, people are going to be a little bit more worried if they're newbies and first timers because they've been at home for a year and because, maybe they've developed some not so great habits over the year and they're not comfortable in their own body, or maybe they're worried because they just haven't been around other people. And do I want to go into a group fitness class with 30 strangers, or even now 10 strangers, if I've just haven't, we've all been home. And so I think being even more welcoming and helping.
Great point. I think too, there's a tendency for people in the personal training world, I should say, just the health and fitness world, whether you are a spin instructor, a personal trainer, or whether you're just a health enthusiast, to surround yourself virtually with everybody else who does that. So we live in this bubble, but this bubble might be big because it encompasses the entire world, but it's the entire world of people who are only fitness enthusiasts. And you forget, there's a lot of people in this pandemic who, number one, lost a lot of money, whether it's a personal business or whether they got fired or laid off and they still had bills to pay. And guess fitness, even if it was let's say not primary, but secondary or tertiary in their life, it might have just not been there. And there's a lot of people who went down just a bad path, who aren't fitness people like us, and they ate themselves and drank themselves into a bad place. So be ready. Like you said, exactly. It was a great point that when we come out of this, you might have a lot of new people in your classes, and you might have a lot of people who are in bad shape now, right? And you have to be worried about those injuries and issues as we sort of break out of the restrictions of the pandemic.
Totally. And something I think to touch upon there is that Michigan right now, we still have a mask mandate. And so we're also wearing masks while doing indoor cycling, or we are allowed to wear face shields as well, which helps a little bit more with the breathability. But I do know that in, the first couple of weeks where we reopened and returned to teaching, that was something as an instructor I was very mindful of, is even though I've got now a room of maybe I know 8 of the 10 riders and they're veterans, we all, myself included, need to get used to doing a cardio workout while wearing a mask, which takes it to a whole new level for myself too. And so I think, I don't know how long that's going to be for all of us. So I think that's, again, another thing as instructors that are listening to this podcast to be mindful of, is those types of things are what to be mindful of when we're all getting back to in the studios. It's just, everything is a little different now. So be, like you mentioned earlier, Steve, be able to read the room, know when people are doing well and you can push them a little harder, but also be able to read maybe when people need a little break.
Yeah, good point. And actually, I can tell you my own experience, just having been stuck indoors and doing a lot of indoor workouts. I haven't done a lot of cardio. And the reason being is that it's been cold until very recently. We talked about that off podcast. Where I am right now, it started to maybe warm up the last month or so, but there was a very unusual cold stint that came through Oklahoma, where I am. So there wasn't a lot of cardio going on in my life. And I went on my first run like a week ago, and I'm somebody who's like built to run. I have that, like, I'm 6 foot, 175. I'm like, I'm very fast. I am like anatomically, I'm like built to be a runner, but it crushed me and I was not ready. I could only imagine trying to teach a group fitness class, being in that sort of cardiovascular shape. I wouldn't be able to speak while I was riding a bike. So I'm sure that's another whole thing to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so if there is anyone, I know you encourage people, if they've wanted to become spin instructors, first thing I would recommend is get those cardio workouts in now to be able to build up the endurance, because that is one thing that makes indoor cycling so different than so many other forms of group fitness, is that as instructors, I'm with my riders. What I tell them to do on the bike, I'm up there doing the exact same thing to myself too. So I think, that is definitely something to consider.
Yeah. There's a lot of different fitness classes where, for instance, like yoga, it varies. I have some yoga teachers who demonstrate every move. I have some who walk around, some who do a combination of that. But I've certainly been in fitness classes before where they demo the move real quick one time, and then they just walk around, right? So they don't have to necessarily be in great shape. They could even be injured and still run the class. Whereas if you're a spin instructor, you're expected to be on that bike working as hard as everyone else, if not harder.
Totally.
So let the listeners know where they can find more information, both if a personal trainer or a potential instructor wants to get more information, where they can contact you directly maybe, and then for anybody else who's just a health enthusiast who wants to use your services.
Awesome. So if any other trainers are out there and want to learn more about teaching, you can either find me personally at strong.with.sarah on Instagram. Send me a message. I'd be happy to chat with you. There are cycle bars all over the country. So if you're really gung-ho about wanting to teach, find a local cycle bar to where you live. Start taking classes. Talk to the instructors. We are a very welcoming crew. I know that local instructors would be happy to take you under your wing and, kind of show you the ropes and figure out if this is something you really might want. And then for any other followers that are listening that want to, either maybe you are a newbie and you have questions before you take a cycling class, again, at strong.with.sarah, send me a message. Any Michigan riders, come to Cycle Bar Northville. You'll see my name is Sarah on the schedule. I would love to meet you guys in person. And again, like I said to the instructors, anyone out there, find your local cycle bar, try a class. Maybe what I recommend, though, I will be honest, try at least 2 or 3 classes with different instructors. Just like anything in life, I don't recommend trying just one indoor cycling class. And really hated it because, like anything in life, it takes a couple different classes, different instructors to find your own groove and to start to understand what's going on.
That's great information. So thank you very much for being with us and all the information. And hopefully we'll talk soon about something different in the future.
Sounds great, Steve. Thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it.